explore leadership, culture, accountability, and what it really takes to build winning teams in sports and in life. Today's guest is Gettysburg College women's basketball coach Nate Davis, one of the most respected Division III coaches in the country, a championship level program builder, and a former United States Marine. Hoorah! So we're looking at 10th season at Gettysburg, 15 total in the coaching ranks, 286 wins, I believe, all time so far. Coached 5 All-Americans, and coach here was a former football player at Mansfield University. This conversation today is going to go far beyond basketball. We're talking about discipline, mental toughness, team culture, leadership under pressure, and how lessons from the Marine Corps translate directly into building coachable players and championship teams. Coach Davis, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, John, for having me.
You bet. And thank you for your service.
Yes, no doubt. Thank you.
Awesome.
You too.
Oh, you bet. You bet. It's awesome. I do have a story about Marines. I'm gonna work it into the conversation here.
I'm sure in the Navy you do have a story about Marines.
I do. But before we jump into the basketball culture talk, take us back a little. How did your experience in the Marines shape you as a leader and as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, looking back on my life, I think it was probably one of the most important decisions I've ever made. Coming out of high school, I wasn't a great student, not because I didn't have the ability, but because I didn't know I had the ability, to be honest with you. I put a lot of priorities in athletics and not too much into academics. And so what you get what you get out of it, right? What you put into it. So wasn't really ready for college. But I did end up going to a junior college, played junior college basketball for a year, and took the same study habits I had in high school to junior college with me, and did not do very well. And so spring break of that first year in college, I decided to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, and I just knew I wasn't ready for college yet. And the Marine Corps, the 4 years for me was very transformative because it really helped me discover things about myself that I didn't really even know or understand what I was capable of, and that I could expect a lot more of myself academically than I was before. And so that was probably one of the biggest takeaways, was my capabilities and understanding myself a lot better through that experience. So when I got out of the Marine Corps and I went back to college, it was so much easier, to be honest with you. It was like I couldn't believe that I struggled before, to be honest with you. So yeah, it was a really important decision for me, and one I'm really thankful that I made, and had a great experience, and it was really transformative for me.
Awesome. And I had the same path as well. Tried the college route and wasn't quite ready, and the Navy got me ready. So that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But when you look back, what's the biggest leadership lesson the Marines taught you? I know
Wow. So many, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And just, when you shared with me kind of what we'd be discussing, I obviously went back and kind of looked at some of the leadership principles that the Marine Corps espouses. And as I looked at those, there's 11 principles that kind of came up as I was doing some research on things that I experienced and learned a while ago. I won't say, more than maybe 30 years ago, but that's okay. But yeah, things that I learned and put into use 30 years ago. So many of them are applicable to today, and so many of them I already haven't put into process every day, and I don't even realize maybe where the origins and where they came from. They just become a part of my life and part of my leadership and a part of the cultures and the teams that I've tried to build going forward. And so it was actually, as I was researching to discuss this with you today, I was, I guess, surprised, but I guess in some ways validated in what I saw, because I was like, oh yeah, that's where that comes from. Oh yeah, that's why that's important. Oh yeah. So there was just so many direct links to things that are important to me and how I lead, to the way the Marine Corps taught me to lead and to approach things. So that was really interesting to see that. I don't know if I answered your question on the
Yeah,
specifics though.
yeah, yeah. But as you look back and you prepared for the interview and you're thinking and you're thinking back, what was there any moments that stuck out from your military experience that permanently changed how you approach pressure in life and stress and
Sure. I mean, my perspective was broadened, right? I mean, I was in some real life and death situations. I was fortunate that during my time there, I didn't have any, it was the end of the first Gulf War before the second one. So I really didn't, thankfully, have to go into those type of environments where, we were at war and those kind of things. So I'm really thankful for that, to be honest with you. But even within that, we had certainly plenty of opportunities where there were life and death type decisions that were having to be made. And even as a young corporal in the Marine Corps, E4, I mean, I led men, and those men were counting on me to help make life and death decisions in an instant. And so my perspective on, some of the things that maybe stressed me out before didn't stress me out as much anymore because I had that perspective, because it wasn't life and death necessarily, even though they were important decisions, they weren't to the level at which I had to make decisions already in the Marine Corps. So I think that was probably the biggest takeaway my perspective was broadened and my experience was gained. That really helped me to put things in proper perspective as I moved forward.
awesome. So we kind of set the stage there. We talked about your journey, from the Marines, and we're working our way to basketball coaching and the culture. So now's a good way for me to work at my own little story here. So, so I was stationed knowing that you're a Marine, I just had to tell you this story here. So I was stationed at Little Creek Base in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah.
And the building was set up. It was a Navy and Marine Corps Reserve Center. So we were active reservists. And the building was set up where there was a huge basketball court and a huge gym in between the buildings. So there's like offices on one side, offices on the other side, and a huge gym in the middle. And Monday through Thursday, we had designated times when the Marines worked out and when the Navy worked out. And then Friday, we did basketball, Marines versus Navy. And I don't know. Marines didn't always dribble the ball. They just there was like a fullback running sometimes. we had some. They were really competitive games, and we got beat up, and it was fun. But we all walked away friends, and you pass them the whole way at work, and it's brotherly love is what it was. It was awesome. So
No doubt. No doubt.
I look forward to those Fridays.
I can only imagine what those were like, and I definitely could understand what you covered. Obviously, in the Marine Corps, we're always on Navy bases. So, I mean, unless you were in the Fleet Marine Force in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, but I spent 2 years in Puerto Rico on a naval base, and so it was always just a good rivalry between Navy and Army, or Navy and Marine Corps, and those kind of things. But yeah, it was always a lot of fun, and that's what I loved about the military culture was there was a lot of athletics opportunies. There was always a gym. There was always an intramural, something going on. I played on so many base teams, different sports. Yep. I was on the base bowling team, base volleyball team, base softball team, base football team. It didn't matter. I was able to do lots of different stuff, and that was a really fun part for me, I think.
Same. I loved it. I loved it. So that's my little story here. This is the
I love it.
Nate Davis episode. This isn't my story here, so I just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Well, that's a pretty nice story about Marines, because there's always some Navy story about a Marines and stuff on ship or whatever you want to name it. I'm sure there are other stories you could tell that would be not as nice.
Yes.
Or not as maybe appropriate for this podcast.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. That was a blast. It was good.
That's awesome.
But getting back to the topic at hand here, one thing people say about your program is that there's a standard, a culture that players buy into. How much of the culture at Gettysburg was influenced by your military background?
Well, that's hard to say. I can't, especially having looked at, kind of preparing for this podcast and just this discussion we're going to have today. I think a lot of it, obviously now, more so than I even understood. I think just the standards in which the expectations we have for not only for myself, but for the players in the program, there's a lot of relatability between like the leadership things, the principles in the Marine Corps, and what we expect within our program. Not that we're Marines by any stretch of the imagination, but just the principles are so translatable to building a great team, building a great culture. Yeah, we're not worried about life and death situations, hopefully, in basketball, but we are a goal-oriented organization. We are trying to achieve greatness together, and so those principles do translate so well. So I think even more than I thought, to be honest with you, when you asked that question, I would have probably said, "Nah, I don't know. I learned a lot as an assistant coach for 10 years. I learned a lot, as a college athlete myself." But looking back on it and again, preparing for this podcast, there's almost all of it is very translatable to what we do today, what we expect from our players, what we expect from ourselves. So I would say a lot, a
Awesome.
lot. And I'd be happy to get into specifics if you want that too.
Yeah.
But
Awesome. And in both Marines and basketball, you rely heavily on trust. How do
yep.
you build trust inside a team? That's a tough,
Well,
different
the nice
dynamic.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah, no, the nice thing for in college athletics is that we recruit the players here. And so we start building those relationships in the recruiting process. We start communicating those expectations of being part of something bigger than yourself in the recruiting process. So every player that comes here recognizes what the expectations are going to be and want to be part of something bigger than just themselves, right? So, like enlisting in the Marine Corps, our players when they decide this is where they want to be and where, and it's a match from an athletic and academic standpoint, they're enlisting in our program, and it's certainly not in formal terms like that, but it really is like they've decided that they want to be part of it and they want to be part of our program. And that really helps our culture tremendously because we do lay it out, kind of like the Marine Corps does. You know, what's the Marine Corps slogan? A few good men, right?
Yep.
We're looking for a few good women in our program, and we're looking for people that want the same things we want. And I think that really puts us all on the same footing and on the same page. And so that really helps our culture tremendously because we're really shooting for that common cause. And then therefore, because we've signed up for it, we trust each other. We trust each other inherently to begin with. Now, obviously, within that, you have to work hard to keep that trust, right? You have to earn that trust every day with your actions, with your attitude every day. Trust is earned all the time, so it's not just given. But because we start on those same frameworks, I think it really helps us, and we can go back to it too. Because when somebody gets out of line and maybe loses some trust, you can go back to why we're here, what we're here about, that clear vision of what we're trying to accomplish. And it can be a grounding and a centering place for us to reestablish trust if ever trust was ever broken. But yeah, it's not something we take for granted. It's something that's foundational to, I think, to any good team is to have trust, and to know that you can be counted on and also know that you can count on others within your team.
Hmm. Yeah. Awesome. So you got this strong culture. It's built on trust. You have a lot of trust. How difficult is it to teach the team first? Mission over self in today's world. And you've been around 15 years. Is it getting tougher? As you see more TikToks and you see more self people getting videos.
It's not easy, right? If it was easy, then every program would have it and you would never lose it. I do think there's more distractions and more things pulling us away, but I think there's also easier to compare with online with social media now. I think we spend too much time comparing ourselves to others on there, and heck, even in my own personal life, we do that, right? But players are no different in that way. Like they look at an online persona or online things that are happening that doesn't always tell the full truth anyway. But we compare ourselves to that, right? And so I think that's always the potential to be a distraction and or break down trust. But again, being able to be grounded and be recentered into why we chose to be here in the first place, why we came together, what our purposes are, what's our vision, what are our goals as an organization, what we're trying to accomplish, and recentering around that on a regular basis, having everything we do whether it be practice or meetings, be centered around that goal and not allowing those distractions to creep in, is how we combat it. But it's also every individual person's choice in our program and how they manage those challenges slash temptations, right? To allow things to creep in from the outside. The nice thing about college athletics is, for the most part, like we're all on the same campus, we're all away from home together, we're in this thing together. So there's some distractions that are eliminated because of just geography, but with social media and the internet and the access of phones, everybody's either a click away or a call away anyway. So those distractions creep in, but you just got to be proactive against it and making sure that you're just not taking things for granted. Because if you do, that's when you lose it.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Well said. So the podcast is called Coachable Players, and I think that word coachable means different things to different people. When
Hmm.
you hear the word coachable, what comes to your mind?
Um, Willingness to learn, have a growth mindset. Um, don't allow the limitations that you've set on yourself to not allow you to be challenged or pushed to be beyond what you think you can do. I think that's huge. I think so many of us, so many players come in and they say, Coach, I can do a lot, but I can't do that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yes, you can do that. You can do it. You need to trust me. You need to push yourself, and you're going to fail, and that's okay. But we're going to keep trying until you get it. And I think a lot of players have a struggle with a willingness to fail. But failure is part of growing. Failure is part of learning. Failure is part of perfecting. And again, we see the finished results on TV or we see the finished results on the internet, but we don't see the hours that people put into mastering that skill, And so comparing ourselves to the finished product is a barrier to being coachable. And so to me, coachable is just that willingness to have a growth mindset, to be willingness to learn, willingness to trust what the coach is saying or what anybody's saying for that matter, and willingness to stretch out, go outside of, again, those limitations that we put on ourselves. We all do it. We all have things that scare us to death.
Mhm.
Even to this day, I have things that, whether it be public speaking or whether it be, something I've never done before, it scares me to try. But the coachable players are willing to at least give it an effort and willing to fail.
Yep. Yeah. So can coachability be taught? Do you think people either have it or they don't?
I absolutely think coachability can be taught
Yep.
because it's a decision.
Yeah.
It's a decision, so it's not a skill as much as it is a choice. Because we choose to be coachable, we choose to accept, we choose to stretch
Agreed.
ourselves and think about what is possible, to trust. We choose to trust. So I think coachability is a choice. So I definitely think it can be taught if it is something to teach, really. I just think it's an attitude, it's a mentality, it's a you know what, I'm willing to fail and I'm going to give it a shot, and that's coachability to me.
Hmm.
And if I look silly, it's okay because I only look silly a few more times. And then when I get it, I'm not going to look silly anymore. So I think it's just, and we've tried to really like, there's a concept calling fail hard. Like if you're going to fail, fail going hard, right? Don't fail because you're hesitant.
Yeah.
Don't fail because you're afraid of messing up. Fail because you gave it your best shot and you messed up. And so we really we celebrate failures in practice if it's going hard. Like we want to push to our drills to a level where we're not comfortable anymore. We want to, if we're dribbling through cones or whatever, we want to go as fast as we possibly can. And when we lose track of the ball, it's like, well, good job. Hey, push yourself, keep pushing. We're not going to worry about losing the ball because we're trying to push the limits of our capabilities. And the only way you push the limits of your capabilities is by failing. And so, and then learning from that failure and then growing. So we celebrate failure in our program in practice. We don't celebrate failure in the games, but we do celebrate it in practice.
Yep.
But we acknowledge that failure is part of the process.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and you learn from it, and you move on. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
What are some signs during recruiting that tell you a player is coachable?
I mean, there's some obvious ones, how they interact with their teammates, how they interact with their coaches, how they respond to failure in the games. If you have a chance to work out with them, how they approach workouts. Are they hesitant? Are they um, willing to, push themselves to a place of failure? Um, do they ask a lot of questions, right? Are they engaged? There's a lot of, to me, real obvious signs, but you know, at the same token, coachability is kind of a deep rooted thing too. And so there's a lot of people that ask great questions, but maybe don't push themselves. There's a lot of people that are very quiet too, but are driven to be the best they can be and can accept failure. And so it's not just cut and dry. I mean, I think we're all have a level of ability of being coachable, but we want to expand that, right? We want to expand that into areas that, good shooters have no problem getting in the gym and shooting. They don't necessarily love to work on their weaknesses, right? Everybody likes to work on their strengths. And so sometimes coachability can be masked as just doing the things that they're really good at and they love and they work hard. But real coachability is, are you willing to work on the things that don't come easy to you? You know, I think that's the piece that we're trying to identify in players is how far are they willing to push themselves to explore their potential in areas that maybe were unexplored or don't come as easy.
Hmm. Yep. And when talking with a former Marine or a Marine, it's always good to talk about accountability and toughness. You can't ignore the toughness here. So,
Yeah.
how do you balance demanding excellence while still maintaining strong relationships with players?
Yeah. I think the relationships is the foundation
Hmm.
of everything, right? Like that good trust-based relationship, because and we talk about it in the recruiting process too. We talk about like, hey, you're going to have plenty of challenges here, and some of these challenges we're going to be the ones that put them in front of you, right? Because we're trying to help you reach your potential. But that relationship piece is so important because as we push them, they have to trust us that we genuinely, one, believe in them, but two, care about them and want what's best for them. And so that's first and foremost. I think if you have a great trust-based relationship, you can push a player beyond what they think they can. And they might not even be happy with you in the moment, but they also know that they trust you and that you want what's best for them, and so they're willing to push forward without damaging the relationship, right? Because they know like you have a purpose and a meaning. Obviously, it's good to always communicate what your purposes are, the meaning for what they're doing, the whys, all those kind of things. It's important to communicate those. But to me, the relationship piece has to be the foundation because then we have the ability to push beyond what you think you can do, and I have ability to push you to be better, to challenge you to be better without damaging our relationship. So it's a delicate balance there because I don't want to ever push a player that damages our relationship.
Yep. And speaking about that,
Yeah,
what do athletes misunderstand about mental toughness? Maybe when they enter
boy.
the program, or
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, one, toughness is a scale. So like, and it's like hard work, right? That means a lot of different things to different people.
yep.
So when I say to somebody, hey, or I ask somebody, do you work hard? And they're like, yeah, I work hard. Well, that means that to their knowledge, they work hard, right? What it might mean to me means totally different, right? And I would say toughness is the same thing, right? Like, some players, I stubbed my toe and I didn't cry, so I'm tough, right? So and that's true, but that's on a different level scale than maybe the toughness that we're looking for, and actually might be even a misunderstanding of what toughness is. Um, because to me, you could cry and still be extremely tough. It's irrelevant. Your emotional reaction is irrelevant to how tough you are. Toughness is facing adversity, um, getting knocked down, and getting back up. That's toughness. Regardless of your emotional reaction, if you get back up and try again, that's tough. If you face a really insurmountable challenge and you take it day by day and you stay disciplined and you work towards that challenge to overcome it, that's toughness. I don't care how many tears are in the middle of there. I don't care of how many like, times where you felt like you were going to quit, but you didn't. And you
Yep.
toughed it out and you stuck with it. and you persevered. I think that's the kind of toughness that we love in our players, is that perseverance, that no quit attitude. Even in the moment they might want to, and even in the moment they might take a step away and say, you know what, I'm good, I can't do this. But then tomorrow they go, you know what, let me give it another shot. To me, that's toughness, and that's what we're looking for from our players, is just that resiliency. It's not an emotional reaction or lack of, because there's a lot of people that don't give emotional reactions but aren't very tough because they quit. I think that resiliency is a direct measure of what real toughness is, and so that's what we look for in our players, is just that no quit attitude, just that willingness to fail, that willingness to keep fighting.
Yeah, it's great to see in action too. That when they get back, no quit, and they keep
Yeah,
going. It's awesome.
yes.
It's so
Because as
awesome.
a coach, there's no better reward than that. Like, to me, that's what like makes me just get super excited, is to know somebody's overcome a challenge and something in their life that they were ready to give up and they did not, and they fought and they fought, and then they saw victory on the other side. Like, to me, there's no better adrenaline push than that as a coach. That, I mean, that motivates me to continue to do what we do, because that's the light bulb moment for those players, that I knew they could do it. They didn't yet, and now they got it, and they did it. They fought. That's the fun part about coaching.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Let's kind of segue into leadership under pressure here. So
Yeah.
what separates leaders who players respect from leaders who simply hold a title?
Oh boy. Um, yeah, I mean, I think leaders that players respect. I think one, people that know they did, you genuinely care about them, I think, is if there's a sense of caring beyond just the sport or what you're trying to lead through, I think that helps. But I also think, the preparation, the expertise, the willingness to lead by example,
Mhm.
to hold yourself accountable. I think good leaders need to be humble and willing to share when they mess up. They're not perfect, right? I think it's hard to follow somebody that never messes up, because, like, one, that's not realistic, and two, it's unattainable, right? It's unattainable. So how can I follow you if you never mess up when I'm going to mess up all the time? So I think willingness to express your humanity in the sense that, hey, I'm not perfect. We're striving to be great together. We're in this thing together. I think it's easier to follow somebody that is on your side, but in it with you. And so that's how we would try to lead by example. It's probably the best way I could put it.
Yep. And then, do you have any comments related to developing young athletes into future leaders? Anything unique or anything that you do to push them?
Yeah, I mean, we have a ton of conversations with our leaders within our program, and even athletes in general. There's just so many skill sets that you learn through college athletics, that the sport gives you an opportunity to learn and grow from. Some adversity, like, right? I mean, every game, every play is an opportunity to succeed or fail. And what a great learning opportunity, and to sharpen ourselves, to mature as people, how we handle failures, how we handle setbacks. Do we get back up? Do we learn and grow? Do we adjust? Do we keep doing the same thing over and over again, or do we adjust? There's just so many skill sets that I believe really form great mature leaders, because that experience is invaluable, right? Like, there's going to be experiences that you can tap into the rest of your life that may not be the exact situation, but are going to be very similar, and you're going to be able to apply either what you learned through that, or even just the confidence that, hey, I've done tough things before, I can do tough things again. And to be able to keep putting one foot in front of the other in those situations as a leader is really important. Obviously, dynamic, you learn to deal with maybe people that don't see eye to eye with you, or are on the same page with you always, and to be able to communicate and still be effective, even if you don't always agree on everything, is a great skill to have too as well, because ultimately you're not going to agree on everything, but hopefully we agree on the main things, and we can come together on the things that we agree on. And so being able to compromise in some things, but not compromise in the goal and the mission, is also a great effective leadership skill. So yeah, I think there's just so many life lessons and leadership skills that are learned through competing at the college level, and we certainly try to take advantage of every teachable moment that we have throughout the seasons or so throughout anyone's 4-year career to make sure that they leave here better than when they came from a leadership perspective.
Awesome. So I think what 10 years, 10 seasons at Gettysburg, I believe, 15 total. So 10 years and 8 of them are 20-win seasons, I believe. 20 plus wins. That's
Yeah, so 11 years I've been here, 10
11.
seasons.
Okay.
11 years, but yeah, so 10 seasons, that's correct. So yeah, we've had a really good run. Um, I think maybe what you quoted was didn't include this season, I don't think.
Okay.
But that's okay because it's not in my this season's not in my bio or anything online. But
Okay.
um, but yeah, I think we've had a great stretch of success, which has been a lot of fun. I've been before I came to Gettysburg, I was part of 3 different other programs, one as a head coach and 2 other as an assistant, and we were able to build from the ground up and build a winning program. But this is the first time that I've been at a place long enough that I've been able to, I guess, learn and prove to myself that we can continue, right, and sustain success at a high level.
Nice.
So that's been the rewarding part of being at Gettysburg for me is I've been here long enough to realize like, okay, now we can sustain success, which has been a lot of fun to try to do year in and year out. But yeah, we've had 9 21 seasons in a row. My first year here, we had 19, so I can't count that as a
Okay.
21 season, but obviously a pretty good year still. But yeah, we've been to 9 straight conference championship games, which
Awesome.
is great. We've won 6 conference championships out of the 10 years that I've been here. We've been to 8 straight NCAA tournaments, which is pretty awesome to know that
Cool.
even in the years that we didn't win the conference, we had a strong enough resume to be an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be part of
Awesome.
the sustained success here, and that's created a whole new learning lessons for me as a coach, as a leader, to fight hard against complacency,
Yeah.
and to expect just because we won last year, we're going to win next year, and to really communicate that to the players, and to realize that certainly within our conference, we're going to get everybody's best shot, and so that's fun. It's been neat to
It's
to
been awesome.
take on the challenges of that winning brings, right?
Yeah.
Winning brings a whole new set of challenges than losing does, but there's still challenges.
Yep, absolutely. And when those challenges hit, what qualities emerge from the great teams, from your leaders and your great teams when you face those adversity and the challenging times?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, and this is probably a principle that I probably did learn from the Marine Corps, if I'm being honest. It comes down to your preparation. The thing that's exposed in pressure moments is your preparation or lack thereof. And I think that's what I'm most proud about with our players is that they've proven time and time again that in pressure moments they've been able to perform really well. And I think it's because of the way we've prepared, and that those moments don't feel any different than some of the moments we create in practice on a day in and day out basis, whether it be competitiveness or just the intensity at which we prepare. So that when their moments come in the game, it doesn't feel big. They're able to just, we would say, not think and just react and just play. And it's because they have confidence in the preparation that they've done. And the reason why I draw it back to the Marine Corps is I really think, if I'm like, I really think like basic training in the Marine Corps is about breaking you down, and training you at a really primal level so that when situations happen, you react in a certain way even without realizing it. Like you don't think, you just react. And I saw that come to life several times when I was in the Marine Corps in stressful situations. I started to do things before I even realized or thought about what I was doing. Like I was already reacting in a certain way to the stressor.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, in the Marine Corps, you're trained to have a stressful situation, but not to run, but to go towards it. And so, like, there were times where whatever. We were in Cuba doing refugee camps, and they had an uprising in the refugee camps. So people were breaking out. And I just remember, without even thinking, all the Marines that were with me and even myself, I'm like running towards it, not away from, you know what I mean? Like, and there were
Yeah.
people that were there, civilians and stuff, like civilian employees that were running away, and we were running towards. And I even remember thinking like, oh, I'm going to go run towards. I didn't think that. I just
Yeah.
did that. You know what I mean? So like, I
Instinct.
really
Yep.
feel like I really feel like that's how we try to train, so that we react in the moments we don't think in those moments. And you don't react unless you've built the habits over and over again to react in those certain ways. And so that's, I think, pretty foundational to, what we try to do to be able to just perform in those big moments.
Nice. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit here. We got a little bit of time left here. Talk about
Yeah.
modern athletes and life lessons. Here's a good one for you here. So how have athletes changed over your 15 years at all? I don't know. We could talk a whole episode about that, but
Yeah, for sure. That's a
yeah,
big topic. You know, I really feel like, on a basic level, athletes haven't changed much. I still think, you know, we find tremendously dedicated, competitive people. I think it's all around them that's changed. I mean, again, I'm right in the mix, so I think parents have changed,
hmm
and how they approach their kids have changed. Um, what they're willing their kids to go through or not go through has changed. The experiences that they're allowing their kids to go through or not go through has changed. So I think parenting has changed a little bit, and understandably, I mean, you know, I don't think my parents knew, like they didn't know what they didn't know. Where it's hard not to know in today's world. Like there's so much information at the tips of our fingers, and in our heads and in our faces with, social media. I mean, we know what's going on in the corner of Arizona right now if we
Yep.
want to
Yeah,
know, right? Right?
it's crazy.
Like me growing up, as my parents, I mean, they let me fail, run around town. Like I was, as long as I was in before dark, they didn't know where I
Yep.
was half the time, where I just feel like parents are way more informed, but also maybe a little more fearful than my parents were, or even I've been, because I'm a coach. As a parent, I think, you know, well-intended parents don't want their children to fail. I get that. They want them to not be happy. I understand that. But that goes back to what I was talking about, where failure is part of the process. Being
hmm
unhappy is part of the process, because when you're unhappy with something, then you are willing to adjust and make it do whatever you need to do to change it, right?
Yep.
So I think that's changed a little bit. Um, Again, I think well intended too. So I don't want to think it's nefarious in any way. I think
Yeah.
parents are trying to do the best they can, and it's not easy to parent these days. I fully acknowledge that, because I'm right there in the trenches with everybody else right now. So, but I think that's one thing I notice. I just think the access to be able to compare yourself to other people has really hurt too, because
Yep.
a player in our program is working their tails off and and they're getting better, but maybe they're not seeing the playing time results that that they maybe would want, but or even deserve yet. But now they're comparing themselves to another one of their high school teammates is at another college and is playing, and they know it. It's in their face all the time,
Yep.
and so it can be discouraging, and can so I think that can hurt. So I think athletes are the same. I just think what their excessive at their access to is changed a lot, which is because again we're all susceptible to it. I mean, what I know, I mean, heck, my wife and I compare ourselves to other people all the time, and we think, oh, our life is awful because we don't go on that vacation, or we didn't do that, or we didn't do this. And it's like, I just think it makes it hard. I think it really makes it hard
Yes.
for people to be present where they are, and to learn and grow where they are, and to take and make the most of where they are, because we're all so elsewhere all the time. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think the athletes are the same. I think they intend well. I think they're great kids. They want to get better. They want to learn. I just think they're pulled in so many directions now. It's hard for them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I said a lot there. I don't know. I went
That
all
was
over the place,
awesome.
but
That was good. So what lessons from sports do you hope your players carry into life after basketball?
yeah, I hope they gain in confidence in their own selves and their abilities. I hope they learn that failure is not the end, that they can lose and get back up and keep fighting. They can learn to be resilient. They can learn to be a great teammate. They can learn to love people well within their communities and to be great in their communities. That winning's important, but it's not what's going to satisfy you or change your life in any way. But through striving to win is where all the important things are developed in us. And to want to win is not a bad thing. Um, but to keep it in proper perspective, I think is really important. So, we certainly strive to win in our program, but we want winning to be a byproduct of us trying to be better people, trying to be better players, to trusting the process of every day, trying to get better at whatever we're doing, and just giving it our best effort every day, and realizing that if we do that, then winning will be a byproduct of that. And so that's what I hopefully, and they'll take that on to whatever else they do in their life, right? Because I think if they do that, they'll be successful. And that's ultimately what we want: successful people, successful parents, successful in their careers, successful in their communities. And just realize like it takes a lot of work, and winning is about the process and about the relationships along the way.
Nailed it. Awesome answer.
Thanks.
That was good. Good, good stuff. Thank you so much for spending some time here today with me. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to meeting you in person here.
That'd be great, John. I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach Nate Davis, Gettysburg College women's basketball coach and former Marine. Thanks for joining the Coachable Players. This episode was a powerful reminder that culture, accountability, discipline, and trust still matter, not just in basketball, but in life. Thanks for listening to the Coachable Players. Be sure to subscribe, share this episode, and continue building teams and people that are truly coachable. Thank you, Coach Davis.
Thank you, John.